With more and more people seeking social distance, getting outside and into the wilderness has quickly become a popular recreation of choice. With this rapid influx of new outdoor enthusiasts, it's important to have a serious discussion about the responsibility we each own to help maintain this beautiful land and protect our continued access. Every year since 2000, an average of 72,400 wildfires burned 7 million acres of land. This number has doubled since the 1990s. Statistics show that 9 out of 10 fires are caused by humans. One tiny mistake, one unwatched ember, can cause unimaginable destruction. In this video, we're going to cover a simple device and a few related tips that could quite literally save lives and millions of dollars in damage. As outdoor activities become more and more popular, it's up to us to help rein in these numbers. The United States Forestry Service manages over 193 million acres of land, while the Department of Interior manages over 400 million acres of land. That's nearly 1 million square miles of federal land open for exploration by adventure seekers. Just for perspective, it's a public playground almost 4 times the size of Texas. These two organizations muster just under 15,000 firefighters. That's one firefighter for every 67 square miles of land. As of 2018, there were over 40 million campers in the United States, using everything from RVs to pup tents. Now, with public gatherings and pastimes being shut down, that number is growing exponentially, which creates a new challenge to already understaffed government organizations. While it may sound idealistic, the good news is that with some education, many of those 40, 50, or 60 million people could be equipped to be so much more than just consumers of nature's beauty, but active protectors and stewards. This is the underlying goal of Lifestyle Overland. While we love inspiring you to get outside, we want you to go prepared and equipped to help us watch over these great lands so they can be enjoyed for years to come. It won't be easy, but like it or not, the continued access to our public lands depends on you and me. We've already lost so much access over the years, and if we don't rise to the occasion and help educate ourselves and these newcomers, we could all be left standing on the outside of a locked gate. So where do we start? Over the next several months, we'll be sharing ways you can help. Some of this may seem like common sense, but let's not assume someone knows it all. We're all constantly learning. So today, let's start with having a few basic items in every kit. Number 1, emergency communications. When things go south, you need to be ready to call for help. Number 2, a quality first aid kit and the knowledge to go with it. Number 3, and the main topic of discussion in this video, a fire extinguisher. Today we're going to talk about being prepared for a fire while traveling. Now whether that's commuting to your job, on a trail hundreds of miles from civilization, or around a crackling campfire in the middle of a national forest. Now before we get started, just a reminder, safety is up to you, and that you are only as safe as your level of preparedness and skill set. Also, remember quality counts, and finally, ignorance kills. Lack of knowledge Training and research can do more damage than good. Education goes hand in hand with the right tools. Now I could just say, hey folks, make sure you have a fire extinguisher on board, plug my favorite brand and be done. But there's so much more to this. Knowing what causes fires is the most important step towards preventing them in the first place. Let's start with your vehicle. Now thankfully, vehicle fires aren't as common as they once were, with the advancements in technology and lessons learned by car manufacturers throughout the years. If you've owned an air-cooled Volkswagen, you know what I'm talking about. But it's still a possibility. Anything mechanical can fail, and those of us who add new electrical systems and gear to our rig increase that risk with every additional device and cable. Even the best installation can experience component failure or wear through insulation and create a low resistance short in a cable that would eventually ignite nearby fuel sources. Even an unmodded vehicle in perfect condition can start a fire unexpectedly by doing something we often do without thinking. Pulling over to the side of the trail. Wildlife sightings, oncoming traffic, bathroom breaks, or simply pulling over to study a map can end in disaster if you park or idle in tall, dry vegetation. Why? Well, studies show that a hot surface as low as 300 degrees can ignite dry grass in 10 minutes. Bump that up to 500 degrees and you're looking at just a few seconds before combustion. Catalytic converters in your exhaust system reach temps of 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and tailpipes at the far end of the system average, you guessed it, 300 to 500 degrees. So be mindful of your surroundings when pulling over for that pit stop. Cigarette butts flicked mindlessly into the underbrush, trailer chains dragging on the road, even brake pads well beyond their service life. These are just a few examples of small sources of ignition that can and have destroyed lives. Simple awareness and preparation make all the difference in the world. Taking steps before the fire are the most effective, easy ways to prevent a catastrophe. Camping and fire. It's gone hand in hand for millennia. There's simply nothing like joining your friends and family around this most sacred place of gathering. Because it's such a common pastime, many campfires are built without a second thought to the dangers that could be present. Drought, low humidity, unexpected winds, and highly combustible fuel sources nearby are all examples of risk that many inexperienced or uneducated campers might overlook in their need for that perfect outdoor experience. Even the well-intentioned, experienced campers have been known to party a bit too hard and slip off to their tents without noticing the glowing embers and increasing winds. Here's a few guidelines to follow when you head off into the wilderness. Number 1, know your fire ban requirements by checking the USFS websites. If you're on an extended trip, checking in every couple of days for the latest restrictions are not a bad idea. I personally know someone who received a hefty fine for having a campfire when restrictions changed the day after they lost cell service. Number 2, understand what substitutes are allowed during bans, if any at all. Your trip doesn't have to be ruined if fires aren't allowed. We've long since switched to carrying a propane fire pit in the Southwest due to constant fire bans popping up. And also because Sarah doesn't like smoke. Just make sure to read the details of the postings to see what is allowed. Number 3, keep a clean campfire and cooking area. Remove combustible material in the area in case wind picks up or you have a grease fire from that big pack of bacon. Number 4, know what a dead-out campfire looks like. Keep a shovel and water readily available. Remember, it's not out until you can put your hand in it and leave it there. Number 5, know where your fire extinguishers are at all times and make sure they're accessible. Number 6, help educate others if you see an open fire during a ban. And if they don't comply, call the authorities with the GPS coordinates. Number 7, know how to contact the local authorities if you start or discover a fire. Even if you don't have cell service, knowing the number to call for your area can make a huge difference in response time once you find service or get a message out via satellite text or ham radio. Number 8, have a plan if you need to evacuate in the middle of the night and keep multiple exit options in mind. Number 9, be aware of existing fires or prescribed burns. Us overlanders can sometimes access areas from seldom traveled route, so there may not be warning signs on your way in. And number 10, for those advanced ham users, knowing your United States Forestry Service frequencies can help with notifying you of potential danger. Now that we've hopefully got your head in the game, let's talk about the tools we go to when things get beyond our control. Fire extinguishers. Now before you hit that buy it now button, there's a few things to consider when choosing a fire extinguisher. First, quality. Is it going to work? Second, quantity. Is it the right size? And third, and probably most importantly, is it the right type? Now while it may be true that a cheap unit is better than no unit, when you consider what's at risk, spending the cash for something that's built well, like your Overland rig, is cheap insurance. Though in the potential loss of life and a few 100,000 charred acres of forest, it would seem ludicrous not to have the best, right? Make sure you choose a unit that is UL listed, which ensures it meets rigorous testing requirements, and find a model that is all metal in construction. Now, a $20 fire extinguisher is probably okay for a commuter car or your kitchen, but take a close look at one and you'll see its plastic construction is probably not going to be ideal for the rough trails over the long haul. Size matters. Too big and you'll have trouble finding a secure mounting location. Too small and you may find it lacking in the capacity to put out a fire. Use your best judgment here. The final thing to consider is the type of fire extinguisher. This might be news to you, but there are actually 5 different types or classes for different kinds of fires. Class A extinguishers are for ordinary combustible materials like paper, wood, cardboard, and most plastics. Class B is for flammable or combustible liquids such as gasoline, kerosene, grease, and oil. Class C is for electrical equipment like appliances, wiring, circuit breakers, and outlets. By the way, never use water to extinguish a Class C fire. The risk of electrical shock is far too great. Class D extinguishers are commonly found in a chemical laboratory. They are for fires that involve combustible metals like magnesium, titanium, potassium, and sodium. And finally, Class K extinguishers are for fires that involve cooking oils, trans fats, and appliances that are typically found in restaurants. Now, let's walk you through the units that we've landed on for both our rigs. You don't have to go with this exact setup, but maybe it will give you some ideas for what best works for you. Now we've been using this H3R Performance Max Out extinguisher since 2014. It was one of the first additions to our 4Runner, and to be honest, I was the guy who let it roll around in the back for 6 months before actually mounting it. Please don't be me. I'm not advocating this testing, but it definitely impressed me with how it held up to being tossed around and abused. It's seen 163,000 miles of rough use and extremely high temperatures in the Phoenix heat. It's still fully charged and ready to go. Now, we've replaced it with a fresh Max Out and added a Hal Guard as well. Both of these units are 2.5 pound units, which is a good balance between capacity and size for mounting. The Max Out uses an ammonium phosphate dry chemical, which gives it an ABC classification. When sprayed on a fire, the powder melts and coats combustible surfaces at 350 degrees, which is great for all the plastics found in our vehicles today. It's also non-conductive for use on electrical fires. The Hal Guard is a different animal. It uses Halotron 1, which is a non-conductive liquefied gas that's used in the aviation industry and on commercial aircraft. Here's the beauty of this unit. It doesn't leave any damaging residue, and it doesn't put out a white plume of material, but instead a clear spray, which means you'll be able to see what you're spraying for, which helps when you're trying to find the source of the fire. And because it's a gas, it will displace oxygen in areas that you might not be able to access, like under all the beautiful panels found in our engine bays today. We went with this option for the simple reason that if we needed to extinguish a fire in the engine bay, we wanted to be able to see the problem when we were done and, if possible, make the repairs needed to get the vehicle back to civilization. Now, you've decided you're getting an extinguisher, right? Time to sign off, send you on your way? No. There's another important step we have to cover first: mounting and accessibility. What good is a fire extinguisher if it's in a box in the back of your rig, or under a bag of tools, or just slid under your seat somewhere in the darkness with your spare change and your lost French fries? You might as well not even have one if you can't get to it in seconds. Now hopefully you've gotten some ideas on preparing your kit for the unexpected, and you've loaded up that online cart with everything you need to keep your rig, yourself, your family, and the general public a bit safer. Congrats, you're almost there. Now the next step is the most critical step. Get educated on how to use these life-saving tools. There are loads and loads of videos out there that are going to help you envision multiple scenarios and responses. Many fire departments offer training as well, so if you're a hands-on person, get all the training you need to feel comfortable. Please don't skip this step. Know your fire extinguisher, know how to remove the safety mechanism, and know how to dispense the unit. Many trainers use the acronym PASS. Pull, aim, squeeze, sweep. This might sound simple, but when your adrenaline's pumping and panic's knocking on your door, having a simple phrase to remind you of the right steps might mean the difference between some scorched wiring and a charred paperweight. Now just as a reminder, in no way do we claim to be experts on fire protection or prevention. These are just some commonly observed methods that we've adopted over the years. Remember, you are responsible for your own safety. Educate yourself and be ready. All right, folks, it's hot, it's dry, it's time to get back into some AC. But before I go, are there any other points you would like to add to this video, or maybe some questions that you have on what we've discussed today? Please post them in the comments below and we'll answer as many of them as we possibly can, and maybe even do a follow-up video with more details in the future. So, thank you for sticking around for this very long, in-depth video about something that's really near and dear to our heart. It's incredibly important that we go prepared into the wilderness. It can save your life, it can save a stranger's life, it can save our access to these beautiful lands. So please adventure responsibly. Please take care of this great gift that we've been given. Help us to be stewards of this land. Until next time, safe travels. Oh, it's hot. Whew. Lifestyle Overland is supported by viewers like you on patreon.com/lifestyleoverland. If you like what we do, consider joining our community for access to our favorite campsites, exclusive content, and so much more. Thank you, Lifestyle Overland patrons, for your continued support.